Okay, the fluids have been checked. We're in the car. Have the keys in the ignition. It's time to fire this podcast up. Yeah, we'll let that oil flow through there a lot more before we get this started here. Welcome, everybody, to the WaltPar Podcast, uniting all generations and types of Mopar fans, lovers, enthusiasts everywhere, from Walter P. Chrysler to today's Mopar and beyond. Yes, this is, again, the WaltPar Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am your host, Scott Gresser, Mopar since 1960. I'm ever so grateful you can join me here on episode number 7 of the WaltPar Podcast. To reach me, you can email me at waltparpodcast@aol.com. Follow me on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. Search WaltPar Podcast. I was going to do this podcast a week ago, but I got sick with some stomach flu. I'm well over that now, so thankfully that episode's done. Downstairs here in my basement, getting ready to roll. Just want to let you know that the Dodge Pod Podcast, is anything about Dodge, Fargo, DeSoto, Plymouth, or Ram trucks, as you very well know. And a lot of the times, Rob talks about the first generation diesels built from 1989 until 1993. But if there's a conversation about any other Mopar trucks, he's up for it. And he'll like this episode today, episode number 7 of the WaltPar Podcast, as I will be talking with Rick Grossniklaus of Gross Lumber DNT950 Bighorn fame. A lot of great stories on that. I could talk with him for hours, days. He's got a huge knowledge of Mopar. And he definitely shows two different kinds of Mopar muscle that none of us really ever think about. But he did a great job, but I'm so grateful for him. He will be on the podcast later on after we get done with the news. But if there's, but recently on his Dodge podcast, Rob had Morgan Miller. She goes by firstgenqueen.com on his podcast, talk about how things are going for her. So make sure you check that out. Chris Albrecht hasn't done anything yet for a while. We know he will because we know he's got to talk about Mopars on the Strip and the great time he had there. And he'll be able to do that soon, I know, and see what he did for judging and the like. The people at Mopars at the Strip love Chris. Chris loves them. They have a great relationship. Can't wait to hear his report. Also, apparently, Tara and Tina are very busy on their race cars because haven't heard a podcast from them yet for 2024, but we know that will be coming. Great ladies out there drag racing, Mopar pride. Now, although I didn't take it out for a spin due to too much salt still on the roads here in Ohio, I did get the Cordoba fired up. That one you hear at the beginning of the podcast, that's the car. I did a video of it, of me firing it up, and you can find that post on the Facebook page, the WaltPar Podcast Facebook page. Luckily, when I fired it up, found no surprises from sitting over the winter. So it looks like once the salt's washed off the road from all the April showers, which I hope does happen, all I need to really do is change the oil and flush the cooling system, and she should be good to go. I mean, it stopped fine. It steered fine pulling it out of the storage unit, but I did not take it on the road. But it ran fine. It's one of the easiest starting cars I have ever had. And it's for the most part, it's never failed me. So I'm very grateful for that. Well, let's get down to the news headlines of the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram brands worldwide. Now, for commercial vehicle owners, before Stellantis was formed, FCA, or Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, started the Ram Business Link program to accommodate their service needs. David Zaslav, Stel Power, and Robert S. Miller of Mopar Insiders reports Stellantis has advanced the program and launched something new called Ram Professional. Ron Glon of Autoblog and Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders report the Texas Trail Edition of Jeep Gladiator will return for the 2024 model year. It will only be available for sale in the state of Texas. Robert S. Miller of Mopar Insiders reports Stellantis will be investing $5.6 European into production in Brazil between 2025 and 2030. 40 new models will be introduced. Research in hybrids and decarbonization and exploring new sales strategies is all part of the deal. Now, I don't know if anything that will be happening in Brazil will make it to North America, but you know me, I find it always amazing what goes on around the world when it comes to the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram brands. Old and new, I love sharing it with you with what's going on. There's always a lot more than what we could ever imagine. The Chrysler Tipton Road transmission plant is up for sale. David Zatso-Stelpower reports the 9-speed automatic transmission that was built there is no longer needed. The United Auto Workers Union was made aware of that during negotiations last fall for their new contracts, and most of the employees are now working in the Kokomo, Indiana plant. Stellantis Mexico had a great sales month in February 2024. Robert S. Miller, Mopar Insiders reports a total of 7,702 units were sold from all the brands Stellantis has in Mexico. Attention all high school students who if you want to become an automotive designer, Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports the 12th annual Stellantis Drive for Design is on. If you're interested and want more information, go to www.stellantisdrivefordesign.com. That's Stellantis Drive for Design, F-O-R, design.com. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports the Detroit Free Press did an interview with the new Stellantis North American Chief Operating Officer Carlos Zarlenga. Regarding the transition to EVs, one of the main points Mr. Zarlenga made was dealerships need to be fully trained in telling their customers the full potential of EVs. Chrysler Power Magazine has announced on Facebook the publication is currently on hold due to the passing of Devin Butler. The staff at the magazine is currently doing what they can with the resources they have to keep the publication going, and they will keep the public updated with what's going on. Now, if you've never seen Chrysler Power Magazine, it's actually sort of cool. It's somewhat old school, but it's really neat to look at. If you want to see what they write, you can go to the website chryslerpower.com, and they have all kinds of different former articles and stuff that you could read to know what that's like, and hopefully they'll be able to keep that publication going. It's been going on for a very long time. A new automatic transmission is coming to the Ram heavy-duty lineup. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports the 68 RFE and Ison 6-speed automatic transmissions will be replaced with a new ZF Powerline 8-speed. It will be installed starting in the 2025 Ram heavy-duty vehicle lineup. And in another article related to this, Jared B. of Mopar Insiders reports it may make for a simpler engine lineup. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports Stellantis will be heading to U.S. District Court in Detroit. The matters Mr. Miller says revolves around accusations Stellantis failed to adequately address a potential fire hazard linked to the vehicle's lithium battery packs on Jeep Wrangler Unlimited 4xEs. After it was reported by David Zatso-Stelpower in episode 6 of the WaltPar Podcast what the main reason was Dodge stopped offering Hemi power in their modern muscle cars, Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders now reports the CEO of Stellantis, Carlos Tavares, says Stellantis will no longer buy a single emission credit. The company will be aiming to self-regulate itself in future decisions to be compliant with government regulations. And speaking of government regulations, after a long while fighting, a deal with Stellantis and the California Air Resources Board has been reached. Now, David Zatso-Stelpower, Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders, and Autoblog, which pulled an article from the Associated Press, have all the details, and there's an awful lot to them. There was a lot agreed on, so please read their articles on their websites for more information. A new recall will be issued to owners of the Dodge Hornet and Alfa Romeo Tonale. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports it will involve 36,093 vehicles in the United States and 5,878 vehicles in Canada. What it is a label will be replaced because the old one had an incorrect weight rating printed on it. Weight rating printed. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports Ram Truck Europe will again be a partner in the Motocross MXGP World Championship. On top of that, Mr. Miller reports Ram Europe is also the truck partner for the Red Bull KTM race team, and Dodge Europe has been chosen as the official vehicles for the World SBK Motorcycle Championship. Now, although there was no deadline mentioned, Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports Dodge has put out a second set of last call ads for the current generation Challengers and Chargers. Dodge is also bringing back its Power Dollars marketing campaign. The article Mr. Miller wrote also stated the high amount of negative comments from YouTube viewers of the commercial, as well as from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, Mopar Insiders did their own poll on their Facebook and Instagram accounts asking if you were going to purchase a new generation LB body Charger, would you purchase an electric Charger Daytona or Hurricane 6-cylinder powered Charger 6-pack? The Instagram poll showed 85% of the 3,846 participants would purchase a 6-pack. The Facebook poll showed that 91% of the 5,127 participants would also purchase a Charger 6-pack. Now, there's a partnership going on between the United States Department of Energy, Stellantis, and the Argonne National Laboratory. There's a new partnership going on, and it's being called the Battery Workforce Challenge. Now, Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports the 2024 Ram ProMaster EV will be the designated vehicle for the partnership's North American Collegiate Engineering Competition. The competition started in 2023 and will be finding ways to advance battery technology for the future. This competition will end in 2026. David Zatz of Stelpower and Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders report 1,831 2016 right-hand drive Wrangler are being recalled for possible faulty airbag clock springs. Please have your VIN handy, and when you call your vehicle or call your dealership, find out if your vehicle is eligible. Stellantis will be planning to stay in the police vehicle business. David Zatz of Stelpower reports the Wagoneer L will be available for use as an unmarked investigative vehicle. Durango all-wheel drive pursuit and Ram 25 and 3500 special service vehicles will be available. The Ram 1500 is temporarily unavailable. Now, a new LB-bodied Charger Pursuit in both electric and Hurricane powertrains is reportedly in the works. Jeep will be building final editions of the Wrangler 392. David Zatz of Stelpower, Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders, and Jonathan Ramsey of Autoblog reports 3,700 units will be made and will come with special equipment. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports a Ram 1500 TRX Final Edition will be sold in Mexico. It wasn't known how many will be sold. David Zatz of Stelpower reports the MyTask Communications and Task Managers program will be coming soon to Stellantis for commercial vehicles. It will be available in Europe first and then offered in North America. Congratulations are out to the Windsor, Ontario Mopar Muscle Club as they are celebrating this year their 10-year anniversary. Congratulations. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders reports Stellantis will be recalling over 317,589 2018 to 2021 Chrysler 300s and Dodge Chargers worldwide for faulty side impact airbags that can explode and hurl shrapnel. Robert S. Miller of Mopar Insiders reports the 2024 Chrysler Pacifica has won Newsweek magazine's Best Minivan for Families award. Due to changing landscapes in the auto industry, David Zatz of Stelpower and Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders report 400 Stellantis employees in the engineering, technology, and software divisions will be laid off. The layoffs have been confirmed by the Daily Drive podcast by Automotive News, and they will begin the layoffs at the end of March. A recall of 38,164 vehicles has been issued. Robert S. Miller, Mopar Insiders, reports a steering column module on various models may not be welded properly on the steering column and cause the airbag not to deploy. Again, have your VIN ready and contact your dealer if your vehicle is being recalled, plus owner notifications will be mailed out May 3rd, 2024. Robert S. Miller Mopar Insiders previewed the new Wagoneer S. The dual E-motor will have 600 horsepower. Although it will have all-terrain capability, Mr. Miller reports do not expect it to be trail rated. It will start out with a standard 400-volt architecture with an 800-volt architecture available in 2025. It will carry the same 4 trim levels found in the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer, and you can find out more by reading his article on Moparinsiders.com. Stellantis is recalling some ProMaster vans. Robert S. Miller reports 12,375 2021-2022 ProMasters are being recalled for an issue with the left side tail lamp and turn signal becoming possibly inoperative. Stellantis vehicles sold in the United States are again on top of a list. Although this is not a list you really don't want to be on top of, because unfortunately it has 5 out of 10 vehicles that are on CarEdge.com's lowest selling list. They include the Dodge Hornet, the Dodge Charger, Jeep Grand Wagoneer, Ram 2500 pickups, and the Chrysler 300. Robert S. Miller of Mopar Insiders and Autoblog, pulling an article from Reuters, report the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is doing an investigation on Ram heavy-duty trucks with an automatic transmission. The thing is, both articles did not mention if that pertains to the 68 RFE or the Ison 6-speed transmission. 82 complaints have been made to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. What it does is it involves a K1 snap ring that breaks and then the vehicles lose motion. And finally, the beard. Patrick Rawl of Stelpower has put together in one link all the articles he has written on the new LB Charger at stelpower.com. The title of the article is 2024-2025 Dodge Charger Roundup. Now, you can find the links to all these stories I mentioned, plus more, when you visit autoblog.com, moparinsiders.com, and stelpower.com. Now, my guest on the WaltPar Podcast today is not a social media sensation. In fact, I don't think he's even on social media. Rick Grossniklaus, like me, has been a Mopar enthusiast since he was a little kid. But with Rick, it started with his dad buying a brand new 1957 Dodge truck to haul logs for his lumber business. And when Rick took over the lumber business, he kept the Dodge truck spirit alive. During the time he owned the business, he owned 7 of the 300 Dodge Bighorn DNT950s made, and he owned all of those at the same time. It was all a part of his fleet. Plus, he had a day cab L1000, and he also had a couple C-Series trucks too. Now, they are the ones, if you ever do a search on these, that have Gross Lumber on the doors. Now, after retiring and selling the business, the new owners still use Ram pickups to this day. And if that wasn't enough, Rick and his family promoted 2 dirt racetracks and ran Dodge stock cars as well in the 80s and 90s at a time when no one else did. Here is my interview with Rick Grossniklaus. We did this interview at the Greenleaf Restaurant in Wooster, Ohio. Now, in 2025, the Greenleaf will be celebrating its 60-year anniversary, and it's just as good now as it was when they first started. And I want to thank the Greenleaf Restaurant in Wooster, Ohio. It's located at 2905 Cleveland Road in Wooster, for their time and letting us sit there and doing the interview. We didn't really hold any customers up anyways, but, just as fine. We were so grateful that they were able to accommodate us, and we got this interview in. So thanks to the Greenleaf Restaurant in Worcester, Ohio. I am here with a fine gentleman named Rick Grossniklaus. He's from Wayne County, Ohio, and he's got a great story to tell in more ways than one of different kinds of Mopar muscle. And you'll see what we mean as we go through the interview. Rick, thank you so much for joining me, sir.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
Yes. So tell me about yourself, where you're born and raised and everything like that.
Well, I was born in Holmes County, raised in the Alpine Valley, lived down there for 22 years, and then we moved up was married and moved up to the Worcester area.
Okay. Your family history goes back. Your grandmother was very influential in certain areas, and we're talking back in the 40s and 50s. And this is something you don't normally hear about, but tell us a little bit about your grandmother.
Okay, she actually came to this country, and I believe it was 1916, with her parents. She'd been 9 years old, and she was quite the, in her years of being here in the beginning, she'd become quite the opera singer. And she was no doubt recognized as a very young entrepreneur, because they had done one of the Cleveland newspapers had done an article on her back then when she was, I think she was 11 years old, and she was running 3 different businesses at the time. I know one of them was flowers. She was delivering them. But then as the years went by, she married another gentleman that moved here from Switzerland, but he didn't come to the United States till he was 22. And they began life together and started making Swiss cheese in the basement of a house in Winesburg, Ohio, which is in Holmes County. And later, they began building a cheese factory in 1935, and a restaurant. And it went on from there, and their marriage didn't work out. Sometime in the 50s they separated, but she seemed to end up with everything. She kept the cheese factory and the restaurant, and she got very involved in environmental things in one way, and just social things. That she was the beginning of the strip mine reclamation in Holmes and Tuscarawas counties. She pushed for that for quite some time. I remember going to some of the meetings with her, and even spending the night with her at the motel to go back to the meeting the next day. And then later in life, I think it began that was in the 60s, and then in the 70s she started the push for the widening of the roads in Holmes County for the buggies, the Amish buggies.
Yes, what we need to tell people is where we're at is part of the largest Amish communities in the entire United States is here in Wayne and Holmes County. More in Holmes County than up here in Wayne. But it's growing up here too, and up north in Ashland County as well. And they don't drive cars, they drive buggies, horse and buggies. And this is why she had the roads widened, so that you wouldn't rear end a buggy. And it gave them a safe path and gave people the go-ahead without being slowed down. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think one of the reasons she got involved with that, all the milk that they used at the cheese factory was from local Amish farmers. And I think she felt that was a way of giving back to them, that they supplied her with milk for making the cheese.
There you go. There you go. So, as you were growing up, and this is a Mopar-related podcast, I think it was your mother that had the convertibles, wasn't it?
Grandmother.
Grandmother. Okay, the same person.
Yeah, Alice. That was her first name. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Alice, as she was driving, this was sort of like the start of when your family history went with Mopars, correct?
I believe so. As far as I know, she started purchasing Mopars back in the early 50s, maybe even the 40s. I'm not certain. There's just one particular attribute I remember of her and her Mopar ownership, that every car she owned was a convertible.
Yes.
So, but she never put the top down.
Yep. And they were all Imperials, correct?
Yeah, she had Chryslers and Imperials. She in the later years she had a 68 300.
Okay.
And that was probably the last new Chrysler that she bought was the 68 300.
Now, that influenced you to be a Mopar enthusiast or fan?
Well, probably more so though with my dad. 'Cause,
Okay.
You know, I didn't know anything but Mopars growing up.
Yes.
You know, some of his friends even commented at times. They said, "I know if Mopar made a motorcycle, you'd have one." So,
They made about everything else.
yes, they did.
So through the years, what got your interest in Mopars yourself?
Well, right back in my teens, I would start drag racing. So I had a 64 Plymouth that I repowered with a 392 Hemi.
Wow, went older.
It actually came with a 318.
Yes.
This particular car, and me and a buddy of mine, we had the car together, and we just ran into some of the local drag strips for a few years, mainly in Magnolia.
Okay, the old Magnolia Airstrip. So that got your interest going there. We're going to be talking about the Dodge Bighorns, like I said in the introduction, but you have another great history to tell of yourself with what you've owned and what you've raced. So you not only did drag racing, what else did you do?
Yeah, then, of course, my dad, he was a very accomplished go-kart racer back in the late 50s, early 60s. And then he put that on the shelf, and when his family was growing up, and then in later years, late 70s, we became involved with racing again.
Okay.
And we had a race car, been in probably the mid-70s already. Yeah, right around mid-70s. We had a race car. In the first 2, 3, 4 years, it was a dirt car. We'd run at like Wayne County Speedway and many dirt tracks in Ohio at that time. But he had different drivers. We didn't even house the car. We would actually just go to the races and watch the car. You know, like he just financed the car. And then it was late 70s. He decided to get back in the driver's seat and start racing the car again. And then he raced for probably 25 years, thereabouts, or 20 years, something like that. But then a few years after he started back into it, and I started racing. But I didn't do a lot. I raced at Wayne County and a little bit at Lakeville. I don't remember I raced any other tracks, but me and one of my employees, we shared a car.
Okay.
And we'd take turns driving it, and of course both working on it all the time and working on his car.
Yes.
And that was my main involvement in the race car, was preparing the car and doing almost all the work on the car, even building the engines. We would get the engines short blocked by a company in Pennsylvania, and it was called B&H Speed Shop. And then I'd finish the motors, assemble them, rebuild them, right in our garage, our lumber company garage. And that's where we kept the car housed for many years. And
now, what for car was it?
it was always Chrysler body,
Yes.
the car. The first car we started with was, if you remember back, Chrysler offered a circle track race car.
The kit cars.
They're called a kit car. But even prior to that, Petty Enterprises offered a circle track race car.
Really? I didn't know that.
And that's what we started with. We didn't buy it new. We bought it from another gentleman that had it in Pennsylvania. And then not too long after that, we had a kit car. But then the chassis that were strictly made from square tubing and didn't have any resemblance to anything factory-wise took over in the circle track racing, especially in dirt circle track racing. A little bit more before asphalt.
Gotcha.
And then there started to begin many manufacturers of chassis, of dirt car chassis. And they were manufacturers in Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan. They're all east of the Mississippi. There was quite a few different chassis manufacturers.
What did you run for engines?
Well, we run a lot of different ones over the years, but back in the beginning, we'd use a 340 TA block, which some of these Mopar enthusiasts
Oh, man!
would not like to hear.
No. And that engine was actually discontinued before the average 10-year cutoff. And they replaced the superseded with a 4-barrel version. But so yes, yes.
Yeah. We used many of them over the years, and then we went to the regular race block.
Okay.
That Chrysler offered.
That was the 355, or
yeah. Well, we probably the first one we had was 355, but then 355 was not competitive.
okay.
It was short-lived as far as being competitive, so you start stroking them, and you can easily stroke a small block up to 430, but we would usually stay with like then the rules started coming into 410, where starting to limit the cubic inch to.
And that was still a small block.
Yeah, still small block.
Now, when you were racing back then, how many other Mopars were out there?
Not a lot. There never has been.
Right.
Maybe back in the 50s and 60s, but before we was involved in it, in the circle track. But in the 70s, the late 70s already, the majority was Chevrolet.
Yes.
And Ford would have been, Ford and Chrysler was probably about the same numbers. There wasn't many Fords either. It was definitely a Chevrolet thing with 350s for the base motor. And there wasn't a lot of Chryslers.
And how did you do against them?
Well, we was competitive.
There you go.
Most of the time. We had good engine builders. Malkett, later Malkett Racing Engines in Strasburg built some motors. But it just continued to increase the horsepower. Right, to start with, we used TA heads, and then we went W2 heads. And of course, then W5s and all the different Ws.
There you go, yes.
You went to aluminum blocks.
Yep.
Aluminum heads first, and then aluminum block and aluminum heads.
Okay.
Then we built used a Keith Black block with NDB1 heads, which is pretty easy to make a lot of horsepower. with that combination. Actually, it was a little bit challenging it to begin with, to try to cam it right, so that you don't have a lot of torque in the beginning when you're at a certain RPMs, so you can control tire spin.
Yes, that's right. But still get traction to go.
Yeah.
Was it hard? You hear the old adage, well, one of the reasons why we don't drive Mopars is because it's hard to get parts for and stuff like that. Did you have that problem when you were racing or not?
We didn't really look at it as a problem at all.
There you go.
I don't remember. There was a learning curve. I remember one of the problems we had in the beginning when you started making these engines with compression was blowing head gaskets until we O-ringed the header of the block. And what I mean by that, we cut a groove, machine the groove, and you would lay a wire, and say you cut a groove, and I think we used like a 30 thousandths wire. And you could use different materials. You could use copper, stainless, or whatever, and lay that wire in there as an added seal.
Okay, yep.
When you torque the head gasket down, and things that you learn, retorquing a head on a race car is probably one of the most important things. That getting that motor up to temperature and letting it cool. That we'd always do it one day and let it cool overnight, and retorque the head the next morning, and then you pretty much could run trouble-free.
How many races did you get out of an engine?
Well, used primarily what you went by was laps, more so than races.
Okay.
Because race length can vary.
Yes, that's true.
And the number of races that you might be in any one night can even vary.
That's true, depending on what the track is.
In the early days, you'd probably up to 1,000 laps. But the more horsepower you make, the less laps between refresh.
There you go. There you go.
And the more traction you have,
yes,
the less laps between refresh. Because if you can use the torque, it can be hard on parts. So you want to be prepared.
That's true. So you raced for how many years?
We was involved in racing for 25 years.
That's a long time for someone who does it part-time. That's a very long. That is a long time, isn't it? Or
oh yeah. Well, there's guys that's been longer than that.
Okay.
And in that time, we was doing racetracks too. I was promoting 2 racetracks.
Which racetracks were those?
Wayne County Speedway.
Okay.
And Pennsboro Speedway in West Virginia.
Okay.
15 years at Wayne County Speedway and 12 years at Pennsboro Speedway.
There was a gentleman I met at a car show called Thomas Fest in St. Clairsville at the Chrysler dealer down there. And he had a kit car, and he was from West Virginia. I don't know his name, but he brought it to the show. And I'll have to get his name for you and let you know who it is. But he had a kit car there. And the thing is about the kit car, a gentleman I worked with at the Chrysler dealer in Columbus, he bought one. And those things included everything, including acid for the battery. I never forget that. You even had a box of battery acid included with your kit car.
The advantage of the initial advantage of the kit car when they came out and the time when they were raced was weight.
Yep.
Because there was no at that time there was no weight rule in dirt car racing. you just run what you run.
There you go.
Nobody worried about something being too light compared to somebody else. And the kit car had that advantage of at least a few hundred pounds over the competitors. But it was a short-lived time, that in racing everybody catches up.
Now, what body did you put on your kit car? Because the gentleman I talked about, he's going to put a Duster body on it, and then he was going to go to a Diplomat, Dodge Diplomat. What body did you have on yours?
Well, I think we started with a Duster, if I remember right, and then we went to an Aspen.
Okay.
Daytona.
I remember a picture of the Daytona. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking the big wing car from. We're talking a body based on the front-wheel drive Daytona from '84 to '91.
Which it didn't have to be. You had to lengthen it some, but
yes.
But the width was the main thing. You had to widen it a lot. I was trying to think what we went to next. In the end, we was. Gosh, now it slips my mind. Was there a Charger?
The Charger was the Omni two-door.
Intrepid.
Oh, Dodge Intrepid, yes. Okay, yep.
That was kind of like the last that we used.
Okay.
Because that would have been in the early 2000s.
Yes. Yeah, they built Intrepids, the LH body cars through 2004.
Okay.
And then they stopped selling them for the rear wheel drives that came out, that the modern Mopar muscle.
See, the companies that would make components for dirt car bodies would make a plastic nose, or urethane, pliable nose for all different types of cars. And that was one of them that they make it to resemble an Intrepid. And then they give you decals to put on it.
There you go.
So it would have some
being like the tail light and headlamp decals.
Yeah, well, just the headlamp, because the dirt car don't have no tail.
Oh, that's right, because you could look right in and see the frame and everything.
They're completely open.
Okay, so we're done. Okay, you've done racing, which is one form of Mopar muscle. Now we're going to go into another form of Mopar muscle. And all you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is search the web for Dodge Bighorn DNT950. Because Stellantis uses the name on their pickups now and everything, and you just want to bleep that out. So make it the Dodge Bighorn DNT50, because that was a series designation for the trucks. When you see a Gross Lumber truck in those pictures, this is the gentleman I'm talking about. And he was the one behind all the Dodge Bighorns. We're going to be talking about those next. But first, the history of your dad. Tell him about before and during and what got you into the Dodges.
Well, Dad went into the trucking business in the 50s. And at the time he was using, when we first got in, he was using GMCs. I was told that, he told me he had a lot of problems with them and seemed to be working on them too much.
Yes.
So, of course, we was living in an area where strip mining was very predominant. I mean, there were strip mines all over the place. And back in them days, they would load the truck in the pit. And, if it was soft or wet or whatever, or maybe even had to all the time, they'd pull the truck out of the pit with a dozer. And so he figured that'd be a good place to check what truck have they found to be superior over everything else. And so he went to the couple of them dozer operators and asked them if he was buying a truck, what would you buy? And he said they thought about it a little while. I said, you know what? We've never pulled a Dodge in two. every other truck they had actually pulled the frames in two. Pulled them out of the pit.
Yep.
So that's what he went with. I guess the rest is history. The first one he bought was a 57, and he used it as a semi-tractor. It was I think a 700, and it had a 354 Hemi in it. Later, he bought a 64, the C series with the swing fenders, with the 413. Over the years, then in the 60s, we had he was driving actually in the 50s already. Started hauling material for a sawmill called Gross Lumber, which was near Apple Creek. And in 65, he purchased the saw and changed the name in 68 to Gross Lumber Company. And over them years, in the beginning, we probably had a half a dozen or so swing fender C series, and then we had one L1000 too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's right. I remember seeing that truck. Yeah.
Non-sleeper.
Yeah, it was a day cab. Yep. I forgot about that truck.
And then when we'd always purchased all our parts and vehicles and through Chemthorne Motors in Canton. And when he got wind of the Bighorn, he ordered one, and it didn't. It was a year from the time he ordered it until we received it, and it was a '74. It was custom cab, 350, 4x4 Spicer transmission.
350, ladies and gentlemen, is 350 Cummins.
Yeah, 350 Cummins turbo diesel.
Yes.
And 4x4 Spicer is a 16-speed Spicer transmission.
Yes.
That you just have 4 main boxes and 4 air auxiliaries for each main box. Back in the day, when Spicers are very common transmissions.
Mm-hmm.
When they first made them and put them in trucks, there was 2 sticks.
Yep.
You didn't have an air shift.
That's right. Like the Road Ranger 13 speeds.
Yeah. And so we received it. We got it in '74. It'd been in the fall of '74 when the truck arrived, and it was titled as '74. So can't say what year for sure. We might have got it in '73, but it was titled as '74. I know that. And then over the years, we bought 7 total.
That's a lot of Bighorns.
In '78, we bought 2 out of an auction. And was it Alabama? But they had like 12 or 13 Bighorns, one company.
Wow.
That went out of business. And we bought 2 there. I believe the name of the company was Riggins, if I remember right. And I actually piggybacked them back and drove them.
Oh, you did?
Piggybacked them.
With no crate. Bounce, bounce, bounce.
And then we bought another one out of Michigan in '78. That was the blue one.
Okay.
That just had a single bunk to begin with.
That had a single what?
Bunk.
Okay.
With a 36-inch bunk to begin with, until when we restored or remodeled, redid the truck, we put a 60-inch bunk on it.
Okay.
But then bought one out of Pennsylvania. It had Detroit in it. 350 Detroit, which would be a 318 with a turbo, V8.
Okay,
V8
so that'd be the 8V71.
Yep.
Okay.
But they called it a 350 because they turboed it.
Yes.
And there wasn't very many built. There was very few Dodge Bighorns built with a Detroit. 90-some% were Cummins.
I I did not know this till I read the Dodge truck history by, I think his name's James Bunn. I knew they offered Detroits from looking at my dealer brochures I always collected. And when I looked at those, he mentioned something about it in the book, and then I really looked at it. I did not realize they raised the cab on a C-Series with the swing-out fenders, and even raised and put a filler in on the side panels above the fenders so it could house that Detroit engine.
They put a two, or I mean, it's either, I think it's 4-inch filler.
Yes.
That they raised the fenders and the cab.
Yep.
Then you could also get a 903.
That's right. Yeah, the V8 Cummins. Yes.
But they also offered a engine in the Bighorns, and I don't know if there was ever one built or not, with the Alice Chalmers.
An Alice Chalmers engine? Wow. That had to have been overseas or something, or down in South America.
It was in the book.
Okay.
A lot of different wheelbases, single frame, double frame. There was only two versions as far as the cab. You had a standard or a custom cab.
Now, what he means, ladies and gentlemen, in today's world, you would think standard cab is the regular cab and different cabs. Back then, it was just the one cab, but standard trim and custom trim.
Exactly.
There, just want to make sure I clear that up for the younger folks listening.
That's exactly right. They had the custom trim would have pleated seats, pleated sun visors.
They even had the pleated door trim panels, if I'm not mistaken.
And they even had a pleated panel behind the seats.
That's right, it did.
Up to the bottom of the window, back window. And then it was a plastic one-piece headlight above that.
And they had their own custom, not just the cluster, but a whole custom dashboard.
Yeah. Now, them were all the same, either cab. It was a wood grain look.
But what I meant was it was different than the C-Series,
oh, yeah.
Is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, they actually, the guys that are familiar with C-Series.
Yes.
And the two horns that come out from your dash, they're steel.
Mm-hmm.
And one on each side.
Yep.
They cut them off. They just used the same cab, and they just cut them off with a saw.
Okay.
And they made a dash that had a flat panel.
Right, it was fairly flat, yes.
And it hinged on the bottom. And 4 screws held it down at the top. And you take 4 screws out, and you could hinge the dash towards you because they had a tilt steering column.
Wow.
And you could pull the tilt steering column was made in such a way that if you wanted to put the steering wheel right down on the seat, you the bolt that you'd loosen to tilt the column was spring loaded, and you could pull it clear out against the spring and take it out of that one end out of that track, and you could lay it right down on the seat. And you could lay that dash. You couldn't lay it flat out, but
it was
you could lay it. You could work right. You could just work right behind it.
It was very accessible.
Very accessible. The custom interior also included carpet, which the other one had rubber mat.
Yep, had a rubber mat in it. So you had a total of 7 total?
Yes.
Were they all Cummins powered?
Except that one.
Except the one, that's right, the Detroit.
And I was not a Detroit fan. I had some Detroits previous in the C-Series, 671s.
Yes.
And so the Detroit stayed in the truck from my parking lot to the inside of my garage. The owner delivered it to me.
Okay.
So I never had it on the road with the Detroit.
I had a 671 in my International M Series I drove for Worcester Iron and Metal. It was their truck. The truck wasn't fast, but it was slow, but it never failed to pull a hill. It was, you just kept it wound up and just let her go. The inline design helped a lot, and it did fine. But I never took it above 45 mile an hour, because this was a true. It came from New Philly, so we have a feeling it was in the strip mines or coal mines or something down there, and it was never meant to be a highway truck, but yet I was driving it on the highway, so I didn't want to take it above 45 because you really started wailing that wheel around. But it had that 671 Detroit in it, and it did okay.
Well, the 53 series and the 71 series were very, very dependable engines.
Yes.
From what I understand, the 92s later, especially starting with the silver 92, and a lot of RVs and trucks, and it was very, very good engine also.
Yes.
But we had a lot of 453s over the years, and 471s, and 671s.
Now, did you change that truck to a Cummins then?
Yeah, 350 Cummins.
Were you able to use the same doghouse in the interior?
There's no doghouse.
Oh, there wasn't?
No, there's no doghouse in that big one. Cab's
Oh,
raised
no,
high
I'm
enough.
sorry. The one that had the 671 Detroit, was that a C series or was that a Bighorn?
It was an 871.
Or 871? Okay,
That was
I
a
got you.
Bighorn.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, of course, going fast forward, looking back on that, the rarity of the truck. I wish I would have done that.
We all had memories of those.
But we was making trucks to use. We not in my wildest dreams did I ever think that these Bighorns would become such a collectible. Of course, I already knew then, but never gave it any thought that they only built 261. So anything with numbers like that could become collectible, but trucks was not something I would
Right.
say so much under the collectible radar
Yes.
back, really not until the last maybe 30 years.
Now, you just didn't baby these trucks for show. You worked these trucks, and what did they? I knew what they did. Tell the people what they did.
Well, we was a hardwood sawmill, and we'd buy tracts of timber and go out and harvest them. And the environment of trucking logs from your loading area at where you harvest to a hard road is not real truck friendly at sometimes.
Yes. Okay.
Sometimes you'd be able to load right on the road or right next to the road, but other times you was back off the road half a mile, and you made a road to come out. And the conditions, especially weather conditions, would dictate how bad that road condition might be. And we'd have to pull these trucks out with loads of logs. Sometimes with two, what we call log skidder, hooked together front to back. Sometimes one in the front and one in the back pushing,
Yep.
and pull these trucks out. Of course, we didn't think nothing of it. The trucks were so durable, so well built. I always thought there was two things that Dodge by mistake or by design done exceptional job on them trucks. And it wasn't a nice big cab. That's
No.
But the tensils. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. That's what I was going to ask, because we talked about like the how they did the frames and everything.
The tensile strength of the frame, if I remember right, is 100,000 pounds, which I believe in engineering that's like per square inch of strength. And the memory in the steel was just incredible. How you could twist them trucks by pulling on them, and the frame would go right back to where it was when it was built. It would never bend the frame, never crack the frames. Yeah, you'd have issues sometimes with bolts coming loose or cross members that you'd retighten or something like that, but nothing significant whatsoever. And then the hood.
Yeah, now we got to tell that back then, all makes were starting to use fiberglass front ends that tilted forward for easy engine access. And in the past, and it wasn't that long before that, you lifted up the hood and you had to climb over the fenders to work on the vehicles. So fiberglass front ends was giving it style, but also giving it versatility. And these were the beginning years of fiberglass, so take it from there.
Well, the engineering of the fiberglass, whether it was previous experience as far as Dodge, Chrysler, some of you folks probably remember the Travco motor homes, and they were fiberglass, and it was that company was owned for Dodge for a time anyhow.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're talking clear back in 1963, 10 years before they started building Bighorns.
A lot of the manufacturers early on with fiberglass hoods, as far as truck manufacturers, had a lot of problems with spider webbing, and this means it wouldn't compromise the integrity of the hood itself, but the paint would come all full of little cracks. And the Dodge hood, they did not have that problem. They never spider webbed, amazingly. There was one event I didn't speak about. We had where we was logging. There was we was loading one place, and there was a hillside on the one side, and a log skidder was sitting on that hillside, and for whatever reason, the brakes released, because we had micro-lock brakes at that time on the log skidders. And the brakes released, and that skidder come down off the hill and hit the hood on that truck. It moved the hood 6 inches to the other side.
Whoa!
Moved the log skidder away. It went right back to where.
Flexibility.
It put a hole in the side of the hood about the size of a softball, and just glassed it back in. You never even knew anything had ever happened. But one thing I didn't mention that was kind of unique: the hinges on the hood,
yes,
were made out of spring material, out of like a spring leaf.
Okay, leaf
truck
spring.
leaf.
Okay.
They weren't as thick as 1/4 inch thick, but they was, I believe, 4 inches wide. And
wow!
You did this. Now that I think about that, this is really going to blow your mind. The bushings, where the bolt goes through to attach the hood, or to attach the hood spring,
Yep.
or the hood hinge, to the truck. Not the hinge itself was bolted to the hood, but where it hinged at, the bushings were rubber, and they were the leaf spring bushings for early 70s Dodge Dart.
70 Dart. Chrysler was always good about using parts off of other things for a long time.
Well, if you know how the Dart rear springs were made,
Yep.
how they had that dog leg on the
Yes.
shackle, and then had that spacer in between two, it used all three of them pieces. That's how wide.
Jeez. Wow.
You just ordered the bushings for Dodge Dart.
So not all dealerships had parts books for the Bighorn. You could still ask for parts for 70 Dart and get them to fix it. Now, the thing is, what people don't realize, when you do a search on the truck and look at the pictures of the Bighorn, that's a very long hood. They had some short-hooded models. You never had any of those, right?
Well, They called it a short one, fiberglass steel hood,
Yes.
but there's only 2 or 3 that survived,
Right.
and it was less than double digits made, I think.
And Tony Youngblood sold his.
Yes. He has the one that the factory kept. He
Okay.
did have it, yeah. But he completely restored it. And there was one I didn't see that one, but I seen the one that a gentleman I knew in Florida had. And it was partially disassembled when I seen it. And I don't know what's happened to it since then. Them are the only 2 I know of.
Okay.
But I think there may be a third one. But they, Dodge was going, they was never really, I guess that had been more of a concept,
Okay. Yes.
because it never was a production.
And it was actually in their brochure. Now you said did you have 7 at one time?
Yes.
And we found a couple in Alabama. Your first one was at Kempthorne Motors, which used to be in Canton. They're still in business, but they don't sell Chryslers anymore. Where did the others come from?
Well, the blue one came from Michigan. I believe we bought that from a dealer, a used truck dealer. The one that bought the Detroit come from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The Timken truck, well, everybody calls it the Timken
Yes, the
truck.
Timken truck.
Because it was never owned by Timken, but it was leased by Timken.
Right. Okay.
They leased it from Kempthorne Motors,
Okay.
and after a few years, or I'm not sure how long they had it, nobody would drive it because the hood was too long. You couldn't see nothing. So a local farmer ended up with it, and he just used it to haul grain, haul a load of coal a couple times in the winter. Other than that, it didn't get used. When I bought it, I think, if I remember correctly, it had less than 200,000 miles on it.
Wow.
And it was 30 years old, probably. And it had a 350. It was kind of a different truck. It had actually Dayton wheels on it, not Bud wheels.
Okay.
Some people won't be familiar with them terms, but they were 5-spoke wheels instead of a
The split rims.
Well, no, it had been 5-lug wheel.
Okay, that's
5 or
right.
6
Yep.
lug wheel instead of a 10-lug wheel.
Okay.
It didn't have a wheel on like automotive type with the bolts up like automotive type.
Okay.
Which is called a Bud wheel. But in the industry, it had a spoked wheel. The center of the wheel is all open, and it fastens to spokes, and you use a wedge and a nut that holds the wheel in place.
Okay.
And there wasn't many built that way, and it had steel fuel tanks.
Ooh.
Round.
Take away from the gross weight there.
I mean,
For payload, yeah.
The look-alike for the aluminum, but there was actually steel, which was very, very. I mean, that's the only one I ever seen with steel tanks. And then the one I currently have is a '73, and I bought it out of Cincinnati from a gentleman in California. He drove it in from California, and it was in a warehousing in Cincinnati, and I purchased it. Now it's 32 years ago,
Yeah, right.
and I still haven't. The intention was to replace the blue one, and we got started on it. We took the truck apart and stretched the frame and did all the things that we needed to do, and we even have the majority of it painted, and I just never got it assembled because I was going to repower it with something different. Still Cummins,
Yep.
but a newer type engine. and I just never got it done yet.
Now you hear us, for the audience, they hear us talk about the blue truck. The blue truck was famous for anybody who follows the Gross Lumber Bighorns, because that was the one that got in a pretty serious wreck. And we'll get to this in the end, but the blue one caught a lot of people in their hearts about that who are Bighorn fans. You know, the truck's still alive, folks. It never got scrapped, so it's still around. How long did you drive those trucks full time?
Oh, myself, probably 10, 15 years.
Okay. Because I remember you had them in the early 90s. They quit making them, for the audience, they quit making them in 1975. Not at the end of the 75 model year, but during the 1975 model year. So 16 years later, he was still driving these trucks full time. They weren't just ornaments. They were full-time log hauling, pallet hauling trucks. And so tell us the story of how you found parts for the famous blue one.
Well, the blue one that was wrecked, it is gone. The cab,
oh, it is?
The cab is gone.
Okay.
The frame I saved. I even got parts from a company or a gentleman in Canada that had some bighorns that he parted out.
Ooh.
I got a front axle, another fuel tank, the parts I needed, even one of the vent boxes that go on the side of the hood that's fiberglass.
Okay.
I needed one of them. I got every piece, even a hood. And with a hood I had prior to even the wreck. But then I actually sold that truck with another frame and another hood, two frames, and a hood and a cab that I bought from this gentleman again from Canada. That somebody could actually put that truck back together. It wouldn't have been cut out for sleeper.
Right.
But if somebody wanted to, for however they might paint it or whatever, I mean, that was sold to a gentleman down close to the river.
The Ohio River. Okay, Southern Ohio.
And I'm not sure what stage that's in right now. But going back a little bit, the hood I had came from a local truck here.
Really?
Overton.
Overton. That's a really ultra small village in western Wayne County. Really small village.
It was a milk truck.
Okay.
Straight truck.
Yes.
A tanker, bulk tank milk truck. The front engine seal was leaking. They put it in their garage. They took the hood off, took the radiator off, and set them outside. And the garage caught fire.
Talk about fate.
So the truck was scrapped. I mean, it burnt to the ground.
Yes.
I got the hood. Well, he knew I had big ones, so he called me up. He sold me the hood and the radiator. And I even bought the steering box, even though it went through the fire.
Right.
Because I wanted to use it for a core for another bighorn because it had power steering, and I had bighorns that had manual steering.
Ooh. Did you even add air steering to the manuals or not? Worcester Iron and Metal, they purposely bought when they bought their white road bosses, they ordered them with manual steering and they added air steering to them. Because when they go through the junkyards and everything else, if something would happen to the air steering, they could turn the valve off and run back with manual steering compared to a truck with no power steering.
Well, when you talk about air, we in '67, I believe it was, or '68, Dad bought a brand new Dodge swing fender with 671.
Okay.
Single axle with an air assist clutch.
I never knew there was such a thing. How did it work?
Great. Made it very easy to push. That's before they come out with these easy clutches.
Yes.
Because we had a driver that lost a leg from the knee down, and we wanted to be able for him to continue with that capacity when he come back to work. So he bought him that truck.
Wow, that's a good boss.
You know, his left leg, he lost, and he lost in an accident at the shop. A log fell on his leg. So, but and then we go back to the hoods here just a little bit.
Yep, no problem.
You know, the puller from the county here, Lou. First name's Lou. Maybe it'll come to me yet. But it has the pulling truck Black Sheep.
Okay.
It's a Dodge Bighorn. Only the cabin hood.
Okay.
Everything else is, I don't even know what the frame is. But when I had that wrecked hood in the blue one.
Okay.
And it was bad, but it wasn't junk. I mean, if you want to spend a lot of time making some fiberglass pieces and getting it all, because fiberglass you can do a lot with it.
Yes.
Well, he put that hood back together, and I told him you can just use it for your truck. So he did, and then later he wanted to make Bighorn hood mold.
There you go.
So I allowed him to use that hood from that Overton truck.
Okay, yep. Because it's all complete, ready to roll to go.
And it wasn't even perfect. It was a little bit on the rough side. And he made the mold. But he didn't have the resources or the facility in place to really start producing these things and to be able to sell them. So he sold the molds to the gentleman that I sold the Timken truck to.
Okay.
And now you can buy a hood from him.
All right.
You can actually make a Bighorn.
There you go.
The cab is not going to be identical, but you can go, any swing fender cab.
Will they work?
Oh yeah, they'll absolutely. There's some things that are different, and of course the dash.
Yes.
But you could fabricate. You could actually make a dash like that if you, or something close to it.
Was the flooring and firewall the same?
Yeah, flooring and the flooring is. Firewall is different also.
Okay.
But it wouldn't hinder your making it into a Bighorn, except your hood mounts.
Okay, yes.
You would have to do some fabricating there. They used a different heater box, which they cut out some of the firewall and redid the firewall. Which is it's not something you'd have to change.
Now, before we end this, where are all these trucks now? You told some of the stories. You got to go back to the 57.
Okay. Well, the 57, it currently is owned by a long-time employee. Actually, if he would have stayed with the company, even though I sold the company 7 years ago, it'll be 8 in April. If he would have stayed with the company through 22, 23. He would have been there 50 years.
Wow.
But I think I could safely say that he has more miles logged on a Bighorn than anybody else in the world.
Wow. Now, was that Razzle Dazzle?
Yes.
Okay.
Bob Benjamin is his
Yes.
name. I'm sure he has over 1 million miles.
I talked with him on the CB when I drove for Worcester Iron and Metal.
And he has the truck. He's somewhere in the restoration process of getting it all put back. But he has more, and he's worked on the trucks. Oh, he's done a lot. He's done all my paint work.
He did, and he put those. What he did, ladies and gentlemen, was in the later years they had the Bighorns. He did custom two-tones, which was contemporary two-tone paintwork for back in the day. And he did that with all the trucks in different color combinations.
They were actually all three-tone with the white.
Okay,
The white,
yes,
yeah.
yep.
But that design came from the blue one when we bought it.
Okay.
Most of it. But he added his own little touches to it, too.
Right, yes he did.
And everybody's always been impressed with that, because that was never a factory.
Yep.
There was some factory options as far as paint schemes,
Yes, there was.
but not like that.
No, not like that. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, the 57 was that same one that Rick talked about that they pulled out of those strip mines. And it's still alive and still working well. So if people think that Dodge trucks are inferior, that proves them wrong. So how about the rest of the Bighorns? And I knew you had some C-Series 2 trucks.
Yeah, we had, I still have one C-Series.
Okay.
68 that I recabbed with a brand new cab many years ago, and it's a dump truck now, tandem dump truck that I still have. We had I think the earliest one we had was 64, and we had one of the swing fenders that had, this is going to be going way back to any listeners. It had a 218 Detroit.
That is what?
But it is a 671.
Okay.
It's a 3.8. It's a 238 with smaller injectors.
Oh, with the C55s, I think.
I don't even know what size they were.
The 238s were C65s.
Okay.
Then they had C60s, and I think there was one below that. So.
But I know it was supposedly 20 horsepower less.
Okay.
And besides that, well, in the cheese business, we had two different Dodge swing fenders. One with a 504.
Okay.
And one with a triple nickel.
With what?
Triple nickel.
Gotcha.
555.
Okay. Gotcha.
And
okay.
both Cummins.
Yes.
V8 Cummins. Yeah. They're small V8s that were not real. It was not one of Cummins' better ideas.
Right, exactly. They were never good at V's.
No.
V blocks.
No.
They were strictly a straight block. Excellent company.
Their best motors were straight blocks.
Yes. Yeah. So the other Bighorns are where now?
Okay, we have one in Indiana.
Okay.
One in Pennsylvania. Let me think just a moment here.
Okay.
Indiana. I sold one of them to a guy in Michigan, but since then he sold it.
Okay.
So I don't know where it is. One in West Virginia. I take that. One is in Pennsylvania. That's the gold one.
Okay.
It was green when I sold it.
Right, two-tone green. Yes.
And he's got it all apart again, and then he's redoing the whole truck. I mean, he's doing absolutely fabulous job. I say one of them's down by the river. I forget which town it is at now. I'm trying to think which ones I'm missing. The one that was purple. That was the first one I sold, and that was.
How are you guys doing?
I bet it was upwards of 20 years ago now. And it was east of here.
Okay, there you go.
But I don't think it was Pennsylvania. I think it was maybe Jersey or someplace that's Maryland, maybe. I'm not even sure. But that's.
And then there's the one that's although it's just a cab and a front end, but it's a puller truck.
Yeah. Well, I never owned that truck.
Oh, you never did? Okay.
The truck itself, no.
Okay.
No. The only thing I ever owned of it was the hood.
Gotcha. Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say as we wind this up, Rick?
It's been an interesting adventure. This has been an interesting, time to speak about it and jog my memory.
Yes.
At least somewhat. I'm sure there's some things I don't remember now, but I think I hit all the high spots. One of the things that was, I think, if Dodge would have continued in the truck market, especially at that time for the next 10, foreseeable 12, 15 years, if they would have just lengthened that cab 6 inches and galvanized it would have been, them are really the only two things that truck needed. Because, air ride was offered.
Really?
But them two things are the significant things. But this is something that probably a lot of people, a lot of truckers will know. But a lot of people are familiar with Peterbilt 4-bag.
Yes.
System.
Yep.
Well, before it was Peterbilt's, Peterbilt didn't design it. It was a company called Western. And Peterbilt bought the patent or the rights, or bought, I don't even know what they bought. But that's the Peterbilt air ride. Well, that's what was offered on the Dodge Bighorns.
There you go.
The Western air ride, which was on the first Bighorn. And the first Bighorn had aluminum frame, which was made by Kenworth.
By Kenworth. Wow. Wow. See, Chrysler, no matter what they do, always ahead of their time.
And they offered the aluminum frame all the way through the production and the air ride. But that's the only one that I know of that actually had.
Now, do you keep in touch with Tony Youngblood or not?
All the time.
Yep.
At times, yeah.
I will personally let him know that I did this interview so he knows to listen to it. I got one podcast to do between this one and I got one more podcast to do, and then this one will be next on episode number 7. So.
Tony Youngblood is the absolute guru.
Yes.
On Dodge Bighorns.
Yes.
There's only a handful of people probably that can walk up on a part for a Dodge Bighorn and tell you that it is where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And he is one of them.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, there's absolutely nobody even on the same plateau.
Yep. And he's a good man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
Well, Rick, thank you so much, sir, for being here on the WaltPar Podcast today. I really do appreciate it very much. It was a great conversation, sir.
Well, thank you.
You bet. And best of luck in the future and getting the C-Series done and restored.
I hope all you enthusiasts out here enjoy this.
Yes, and hopefully Bob gets the 57 done soon.
Yes, I'm sure he will.
There you go. Thank you, Rick, very much. I could talk with Rick all day long about Mopars. And actually I can go weeks with him, and I think he can too. It was a great interview. I really enjoyed my time with him at the Greenleaf restaurant. and hear his story. And it's a great story. It's a different story, but it's still Mopar related, and I'm glad I got to do it. He's a very kind gentleman. There was no hesitating for him meeting a total stranger and getting it done. So I appreciate him very, very much for that. Now, after the recording of the interview was over, I was talking to Rick about a red C950 in the middle of the 1970s in Worcester that was owned by a scrap iron company called WaltPar Iron and Metal. This truck hauled scrap metal containers to different locations and picked up the full ones. Now, I brought this truck up to Rick only to find out later, because we talked about the boom truck that was still there, the yard truck. Guess what that truck is? That's the old WaltPar truck. And that became the yard boom truck that we talked about. So that same truck is still alive after all of these years. And that truck did nothing but hard work, and it keeps doing it today. Typical Dodge truck. Thanks again, Rick, for the great interview. It was really a great one out there, and I appreciate it very, very much again. Now, let's say we go through the event calendar of Mopar-only shows. In state alphabetical order, here we go. In Alabama, April 26th and 27th, Mopars at the Battleship benefiting Children's Hospital in New Orleans and Louisiana and Mulherron Home in Mobile, Alabama. It will be held at the USS Alabama Battleship Memorial Park, Mobile, Alabama. Hosting club, the Big Easy Mopar Association, bigeasymopar.org. June 7th and 8th, the Coleman Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram presents Mopars by the Lake at Sportsman Lake Park in Coleman, Alabama. That's spelled Cullman. Hosting club is Pentastar South. For more information, call Robert, 256-734-1064, or Brenda at 256-590-2949. In Alberta, Canada, on July 27th, it's Western Canada's largest Mopar show, Western Mopar Madness. It will be held at the Rad Torque Raceway in Leduc County, Alberta, Canada, from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. The hosting club is the Edmonton Mopar Association. For more information, go to emawmm.com. Arizona, we got no shows left in Arizona. In Arkansas, June 22nd, the third annual Turpentine Creek Mopar Classic at Turpentine Creek Wildlife Refuge in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Held from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. Go to tcmoparclassic.com for more information. In the great state of California, April 20th and 21st, Spring Fling 36, All Mopar Show and Parts Exchange, will be held at Woodley Park in Van Nuys, California, hosting clubs, two of them, Southern California Mopar Car Club and Chrysler Performance West Club. For more information, cpwclub.com. Great state of Connecticut, March 18th and 19th, the 44th Annual Mopar Expo Show and Swap Meet will be held at Papa's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in New Britain, Connecticut. From 9 a.m. till 3 p.m., the hosting club, Mopars in Motion. Contact Ralph, 860-416-1228, and you'll also be contacting him if you want to have information for the 16th Annual Innovators Show and Shine All Mopar Show at Ardioli Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Enfield, Connecticut, which will be held on September 22nd. That will also be from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. Again, the hosting club is Mopars in Motion, and contact Ralph, 860-416-1228. The great state of Florida, always a huge Mopar state. On April 13th, it's the 14th Annual Mopars by the Lake All Mopars Show and Swap Meet, which will be held at Wallace Brooks Park in Inverness, Florida. Hosting club is the Citrus County Mopar Club, and find more information on their Facebook page. May 10th and 11th, 37th Annual Sunshine State Mopar Car Show and Swap Meet at the Florida Horse Park in Ocala, Florida. The hosting association is the Florida Mopar Association. Go to floridamoparassociation.com for more information. October 5th, 1st through the 5th. This replaces Myrtle Beach. Mopars at the Beach will now be held in Daytona Beach, not Myrtle Beach. The reason why, Kathy Pearson Bridges, who founded the event, who puts on the event, moved to Florida to be closer to family. Now, this event is still in the planning stages, but it will be held in Daytona Beach October 1st through the 5th at Daytona Beach, Florida. And November 2nd and 3rd will be Mopars with Big Daddy at the Garlett's Drag Racing Museum in Ocala, Florida. Garlets.com or 352-245-8661. The great state of Illinois. A lot of these are put on by the Chicagoland Mopar Club, but we'll still go through them individually. June 2nd, Mo Power Madness 2024 at Kazi Corner Hot Dogs, Beef, and Catering at 1250 75th Street in Downers Grove, Illinois. The hosting club, Chicagoland Mopar Connection. Go to their Facebook page, search Chicagoland Mopar Club. Go to their Facebook page under events for more contact information. The same will be true for Mopars at the Park on June 23rd from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Fox Lake Veterans Memorial Park in Fox Lake, Illinois. Show vehicle entry fee is $20. Spectator admission is free. Again, Chicagoland Mopar Connection, as well as this right here, July 20th, the Midwest Charger Meet 2024, July, as well as the Mopar Modern Muscle Meet will both be held on July 20th, 2024, and the Belvedere Mopar Happening. Well, all these three events will be going on from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. at the Boone County Fairgrounds in Belvedere, Illinois. Again, the hosting club is the Chicago Mopar Connection. Go to their Facebook page, search Chicagoland Mopar Club. Go to their page under events for more contact information on each event. And also, there's one more they have that they're doing. This is in Iowa. Mopars on the Mississippi 2024 will be held in Dubuque, Iowa at the Dubuque County Fairgrounds. The show will go on from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Again, Chicagoland Mopar Connection. Go to their Facebook page, Chicagoland Mopar Club, under events for more information. In Indiana, in Brownsburg, Indiana, near Indianapolis, it's June 14th through the 16th. It's the National Hemi Owners Association meet and reunion. I don't have any other information yet. I'll have to start looking in that to let you know. In Kentucky, the Holly Mo Party is on at Beach Bend Raceway Park in Bowling Green, Kentucky. moparty.com. Kentucky Dragway on Facebook said it will be having an all Mopar event in 2024, although the date has not been set. In Louisiana, July 24th through the 28th, it is the 38th Annual National DeSoto Club Convention. This year will be held in New Orleans, Louisiana. For more information, desoto.org. The great state of Michigan, May 5th, the 26th Annual North Oakland Mopar Muscle Club All Mopar Show and Swap Meet will be held from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. at the Packard Proving Grounds, 49965 Van Dyke Avenue, Shelby Township, Michigan. The hosting club, the North Oakland Mopar Muscle Club. On Facebook at North Oakland Mopar Muscle, or their website, www.northoaklandmoparmuscle.com. September 21st, it's the 13th Annual Michigan Mopar Muscle Club All Mopar Car Show and Swap Meet from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. to be held at the Hub Stadium, Auburn Hills, Michigan. The hosting club, Michigan Mopar Muscle Car Club. You can find out more information by going to the website, michiganmoparmuscle.com, or email them showinfo@michiganmoparmuscle.com. In Minnesota, it's the big one, Memorial Day weekend. Midwest Mopars in the Park Car Show and Swap Meet. It will be held May 31st through June 2nd at the Washington County Fairgrounds in Stillwater, Minnesota. The hosting club is the Midwest Mopars. For more information, MidwestMopars.middletwin.com. August 4th through the 9th, 2024, the Plymouth Owners Club National Meet and Greet will be held at Brainerd, Minnesota this year. The hosting chapter is the Tall Pines region, and it is PlymouthOwners.club is the website, PlymouthOwners.club. In Mississippi, in the great state of Mississippi, Mopars in the Bay at Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Hosted by the Big Easy Mopar Association, bigeasymopar.org, or you can call for more information, 504-512-0367. In the great state of Missouri, it's the St. Louis Mopar Blast to be held at Worldwide Technology Raceway in Madison, Illinois. Madison, Illinois is part of the whole entire metropolitan area of St. Louis, so don't let the state fool you on that. It's hosted by Mopar Blast Incorporated, a registered 501c3 nonprofit. In the great state of Nebraska, July 21st, it's the second annual H&H Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram All Mopar Show at H&H dealership in Papillon, Nebraska. Go to their Facebook and Instagram pages for more information. In New Jersey, Califon Mopar Show to benefit the Califon Veterans Memorial at Califon Island Park in Califon, New Jersey. Califon, that's CALIFON, carshow.org. The great state of New Mexico, the 27th annual Mopar Muscle Club of New Mexico Mopar Fest will be held at Haynes Park, Rio Rancho, New Mexico from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. You can go to nmmoparfest@yahoo.com or moparclub.com. The great state of New York, the 14th annual Western New York Mopars, Mopar Day, All Mopar Gathering and Drag Racing at Lancaster Motorplex in Lancaster, New York. Hosting club is the Western New York Mopars. Make sure you check out this club at Chrysler's at Carlisle. October 13th, 2024, Mopars at the Valley Car Show and Swap Meet at Lebanon Valley Dragway in East Chatham, New York. Hosting club, the Capital Area Mopars. You can also go to dragway.com for more information. North Carolina, on April 6th and back in November 16th, it's going to be the spring and then the fall Mopars at the Rock at Rockingham Dragway in Rockingham, North Carolina. Rockingham Dragway for more information. And in between those events on May 11th, 38th Annual Piedmont Mopar Fun Run at Farmington Dragway in Mocksville, North Carolina. The hosting club is the Piedmont Mopar Club, PiedmontMopar.com. Now, the state that has the most Mopar events, my home state of Ohio. Here we go. April 13th, 2024. It's the Mopar Spring Dust-Off. I will be there. Quaker Steak and Lube at the Polaris Shopping Plaza in Columbus, Ohio, on the north end of Columbus. The hosting club is All Modern Mopars of Ohio. Ammo Mopar Club on Facebook. Anthony Carter was one of the founders of the club. I will be interviewing his interview I taped a lot earlier. Will be on the next WaltPar podcast. So make sure you listen to that. Anthony wants to make sure to let everybody know that, yes, that although this is a modern Mopar club, he encourages all Mopars, no matter how old or new they are or whatever, please come to this and meet your fellow Mopar friends. So all Mopars are welcome to this. I've gone to it. It's a great event, and hope to see you there. May 3rd and 4th, I will also be at the annual Mid-Ohio Mopars All Mopar Swap Meet and Car Corral at the Wayne County Fairgrounds in Worcester, Ohio. Hosting club is the Mid-Ohio Mopars, midohiomopars.us for more information. And weather depending, I'm going to try to make it to Thomas Fest on May 11th at the Thomas Auto Center, which is a Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram dealership in St. Clairsville, Ohio. Huge Mopar-loving dealership. The Raminator monster truck has been there every year the show has been. The show is down to one day this year. The Raminator will be crushing cars starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on May 11th. For more information, Robert Thomas, 740-695-0452. I have a flyer of that as well. On June 8th, 2024, the 25th annual St. Mary's Mopar No Car Cruise-In at St. Mary's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in St. Mary's, Ohio. Registration begins at 9 a.m. The cruise-in starts at 2 p.m. Contact Brian Engel at 419-305-6552 for more information. A lot more shows to go in Ohio. Here we go. June 9th, the next day, the 17th annual Mopars at Junction Auto Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Chardon, Ohio. For more information to follow soon. On June 22nd, 2 weeks later, the All Mopar Show at Plaza Inn Restaurant at 491 South Main Street in Mount Victory, Ohio. I don't have much information on that. I'm thinking I might call the restaurant and see who I can get in touch with to get you more information on that. August 2nd through the 4th, it's the Mopar at Madness at Dragway 42 weekend coming up. And in the middle of that, part of the Mopar Madness is the 33rd annual Mid-Ohio Mopar Show and Swap Meet. It's part of Mopar Madness at 42. The rain date will be on August 4th. For more information on all of this, dragway42.com. August 9th through the 11th, it's the 43rd annual Nationals at National Trail Raceway in Kirkersville, Ohio, east of Columbus, right on US 40. Now, at the time of this recording, the website moparnats.org is still not working, but their Facebook page is running. Or you can call and leave them a message at 313-278-2240. September 15th, it is the annual Classic Car Club of Toledo Car Show, which will be held at Yark Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on the Central Avenue Strip in Toledo. More information to follow on that. And finally, in Ohio on September 19th through the 22nd, it's the second annual World of Mopar at Summit Motorsports Drag Strip Park in Norwalk, Ohio. In the state of Oklahoma, May 10th through the 12th, it's the fourth annual Southern Plains Mopar Fest, hosted by the City of Bristow, Oklahoma, and the City of Bristow, Oklahoma Historical Society, of course, in Bristow, Oklahoma. SouthernPlainsMoparFest.com for more information. In Ontario, Canada, August 6th to the 11th, it's the Walter P. Chrysler Club National Meet to be held in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. ChryslerClub.org for more information. August 13th through the 16th, the 59th Annual Airflow Club National Meet will be meeting at 4 Points Sheridan by Marriott in London, Ontario. Airflowclub.com for more information. August 17th and 18th, right after that, they can head on over to Mopar Fest, Canada's largest all-Mopar car show, which will be held from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. each day at 251 Jacob Street, New Hamburg, Ontario. Moparfest.com for more information. And finally, in Ontario, August 24th, the second annual Motor City Mopar Show at Motor City Chrysler in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. The hosting club is the Windsor Area Mopar Muscle Club. For more details, search Facebook for WAAMM under events. State of Oregon, August 4th, the 39th annual Woodburn Drag Strip Mopar Nationals at Woodburn Drag Strip, Woodburn, Oregon. WoodburnDragStrip.com for more information, or you can call 541-746-4620. August 8th through the 10th, it's the Walter P. Chrysler Pacific Northwest Regional Meet, also in Woodburn, Oregon. Email for more information, d.duthie, that's d.duthie at comcast.net. In the great state of Pennsylvania, 37th Annual Lake Erie Tri-State Mopar Club All Mopar Car Show and Swap Meet from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. at the Albion County Fairgrounds in Albion, Pennsylvania. Hosting club will be, of course, the Lake Erie Tri-State Mopar Club. Search Let's Mopar Club on Facebook or Let's Mopar Club at yahoo.com if you want to email for more information. On June 23rd, the All Mopar Show, hosted by the Lansdale Auto Group and Miss Mopar, from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. at the Lansdale Auto Group in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania. The registration area opens up at 9 a.m. AllMoparshow.com for more information. And, of course, the big one, the Chrysler Carlisle Nationals, Carlisle Fairgrounds, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, CarlisleEvents.com. in South Carolina, October 16th through the 19th. Mopar Fever at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This is the event that is replacing Mopars at the beach. As I mentioned earlier, they are moving that event to Daytona Beach. Michael Stark and some others are wanting to keep it going in Myrtle Beach, so therefore they are starting Mopar Fever. Go to 8FO, the letter O, 8FO3mopars.org, or you can go to their Facebook page and find out more information. Here, I just got this one up. In South Dakota on August 24th, Moparama 2024 is back after a year's hiatus. It will be a one-day event held at Billion Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The hosting club is the Sioux Empire Mopars. In the great state of Tennessee, September 28th, the 35th annual Music City Mopar Club Show at the Wilson County Fairgrounds in Lebanon, Tennessee. Hosting club is the Music City Mopar Club. You can visit musiccitymoparclub.com or give a call to 615-972-1056. In Virginia, on August 31st, Mopars in the Valley, powered by Berglund Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. at the Salem Civic Center. $20 for pre-registration, $30 for the day of show for registration. Rain date will be on September 1st and be hosted by David Simmons and the Roanoke Valley Mopar Club. Search Roanoke Valley Mopar Club on Facebook for more information. And finally, the state of Washington, July 28th, the 19th annual Mopar Magic All Mopar Car Show and Shine at Peninsula High School, Gig Harbor, Washington. allaroundmopars.com for more information. And we still have 4 events left in the Modern Hemi Race Shootout. The second event is at Rockingham Dragway in Rockingham, North Carolina on April 5th and 6th. The third stop is June 22nd at Cecil County Dragway in Rising Sun, Maryland. The fourth stop is August 16th and 17th, part of the Woodward Dream Cruise Weekend in Detroit, Michigan. And October 18th and 19th, the fifth stop and final stop is at Maryland International Raceway in Mechanicsville, Maryland. For more information, go to hemirace.com. Well, this does it for episode number 7 of the WaltPar Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, and thanks to Ron and Glon of Autoblog, Jarrett B. of Robert S. Miller of Mopar Insiders, Patrick Rawl and David Zatz of Stel Power, the staff of Chrysler Power Magazine, Reuters and Associated Press, and Rick Grossniklaus for their contributions with episode number 7 of the WaltPar Podcast. And I also want to give a thanks to the 65 followers and the 45 people who like my Facebook page, the 80 followers on X, the 152 followers on Instagram, and the 25 followers I have on Threads. And you can join me as well. Search WaltPar Podcast. I've sent over 100 Facebook messages and emails to 100 Mopar and AMC clubs combined. But still, I can use your help, too, in spreading the word about the WaltPar Podcast. Please tell your fellow Mopar fans, lovers, enthusiasts about the podcast. I would appreciate it very much. And please, if you can, give me a top rating wherever you listen. Now, if you have any questions or comments or concerns or suggestions, you can email me at waltparpodcast@aol.com. You can snail mail me at P.O. Box 455, Apple Creek, Ohio 44606. Apple Creek is 2 words. You can find me on social media, as always, again, on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. Search WaltPar Podcast. And please don't forget to check out the other Mopar-related podcasts that are out there, the Dodge Pod with Alan Napier and Robert and Humberto. Let's not forget the T-N-T podcast with Tara Graves and Tina Boggust, and the best Mopar podcast on planet Earth, Talking Mopars with the Mopar hunter himself, Chris Albrecht. But before I go, please, whenever you go to a car show or a cruise-in, find a Mopar that is totally different than yours and say hello to that person. And please say hello to that person. and find out what more about their car, and hopefully they'll ask about yours. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you join me here next time for the next episode of the WaltPar Podcast. And as Mike Bonadonna of the Citrus County, Florida, USA Mopar Club says, keep those highways beautiful. Drive your Mopars. Uniting all generations and types of Mopar fans, lovers, and enthusiasts everywhere. From Walter P. Chrysler to today's Mopar and beyond, this has been the WaltPar Podcast. Take care, everyone. The WaltPar Podcast is a production of Auto Catawba, LLC. Take care, everyone. Thank you.